Oh, wait, okay, wait. So what... I need to stop, like, hedging when I'm like, oh, and I super have, or whatever. Like, what do I say?
I think it's good on its own.
Okay. I super have read it, just not recently.
Yeah, I don't think you have to qualify that. I think it's a good tagline.
I think it just happened by accident, too, so let's just roll with it.
Okay. Welcome to the Homestake... Fuck.
Every week! Every week.
Welcome to the Hamsteak Podcast, the podcast where we read Homestuck and tell you about it. My name's Alex, and I have not read Homestuck before.
My name's Lydia, and I super have.
And today we are continuing Act 5, wherein we meet many trolls.
We do. We don't actually meet that many new ones this week. I think we meet like 2 of them, and we've both seen them before, so they're not the most... We meet like 2.5. We meet like 3, including 2 half trolls and like a teaser. We're in that part of the story now where he's teasing different characters constantly, so...
Yeah. So, yeah, we get 2 named trolls and a bunch of teasers.
Right. I'm slowly removing my fist from my mouth in terms of people's names.
Yeah.
It's getting easier.
One of my notes later on in the reading, I named 3 characters and wow, that's interesting. I can actually do that.
Yeah, it's really cool that they're not mysterious figures anymore. They're people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you're following along at home, we're reading pages 3929 to 3992, so you just flip the last 2 digits there.
Yes. Nice. And we start out at Terezi's room. We meet Terezi.
Yeah! It's super weird to hear you say their names out loud. But yes, we don't immediately know that it's her, but this is who we're about to meet. Terezi Pyrope. And she lives in a tree, which she has decorated with garish bright colors in every way possible, including chalk drawings on the walls and these things that I would call oriental rugs, but they're in highlighter colors and it turns out they're dragon scales. Dragons live in her forest, so she's got dragon scales, which are the size of your face and look like a psychedelic poster.
Yeah, it's a really cool room.
It's super cool. Of all of the kids' rooms that we've seen so far, I would super live in her room.
Yeah, I think you would. Mm-hmm. I would too, honestly. It's cool looking. And none of the colors are too much for me.
Right.
Almost more than some of the Earth locations. The color schemes on Alternia, although out of this world, are very pleasing. Yeah,
they're very well, okay, so what color coordinations or combinations didn't you like on Earth?
I can't remember specifically, but I was talking way earlier in the podcast about some of the colors just clashing for me and being uncomfortable. Purple and green are 2 that I don't like to see together.
Oh, so you were not a fan of Barney.
Yeah, which this comic has a lot of.
Hmm.
But in this reading, I see a lot of cool colors.
Nice. There's we'll talk about purple and green in another couple hundred pages.
Well, there's still a lot of it, but I guess I'm warming up to it.
Yeah, we'll make a purple and green fan of you. Yeah, I'm wearing 1 purple sock and 1 green sock right now.
Of course.
So, I guess we can't be friends.
So it's Terezi Pyrope.
Mm-hmm.
And did you get up to the point in Undertale where we meet Pyrope?
Nope.
Because Pyrope is a little coil of rope that's on fire.
That's adorable.
Yeah. And clearly it was named after Terezi Pyrope because, if you don't know at home, Toby Fox, the creator of Undertale, is a musician on Homestuck as well.
Mm-hmm. But so some things about Terezi herself are she's really into live action role playing, which is 2 things. It's her playing pretend with her little dragon plushies, who she calls scale mates. She plays pretend courtroom and everything. Well,
the thing is that she says that she's pretending to play pretend. She's saying that she's trying to convince everyone she knows that she believes that they're alive. But the line, it's blurry as to whether she really still believes that or not.
It's really, really sweet because
Yeah.
there's a couple of instances in this week's reading in particular where I'm able to look back on it, like, on this reading and recognize that these are, like, smart kids, like, doing the things that smart kids do when they're trying to, like, move on, or when they're aware that they feel like they should be moving on from the things that they enjoyed doing as, like, young children, but at the same time they still really enjoy doing them.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of, like, these kids, these weird alien insect kids acting like real 13-year-olds.
Yeah, and it's really sweet. And it's really, like, interesting to see the ways in which, like, we'll get to more of it later, but, like, they talk, you know, especially when they're just talking among themselves, you know, they sound like adults. Mm-hmm. And as we'll learn later, they're kind of in sort of an adult situation, in terms of, like, their responsibility and everything, but at the same time, like, they are still kids and they're still learning how to, like, regulate their emotions and, like, figure out their identities and stuff, so.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Anyway, so, Terezi likes to LARP.
She does. She's also really into, draconian law. Like, she, according to her, the Alternian law system is very brutal. Mm-hmm. And she, like, I forget what Karkat aspires to be, but she aspires to be a legislator. Mm-hmm. Like a legislator and an eviscerator.
I was just thinking, like, lacerator.
Oh, yeah. You're right, actually.
But either way.
Erator is the operative. Mm-hmm. And yes, draconian, like dragons. That was my joke, not Andrew Hussey's.
That's good.
Thanks.
Also, there was an accident. She makes reference to an accident before which she enjoyed more extreme LARPing with her friends.
Right. And so that, I assume, is when she lost her vision.
Mm-hmm. She also points out that, her narration text points out that it's pretty hard to live-action roleplay when there is no one who is alive nearby, which is a really fun and obtuse way to talk about, like, things that are unborn, undead, otherwise inanimate.
Right. Because she does live alone in a treehouse in the forest.
She lives alone in a treehouse in the forest, but as we're going to find out a little bit later, she communicates with people still. It's weird. We'll get to it.
Okay.
First, we're going to learn a little bit about the Alternian justice system as demonstrated through Terezi's charming LARP session.
Yeah, so she acts out a courtroom drama where one of her dragons is I guess, like a corrupt senator, which is interesting. I don't know if they really have senators there, but basically the chalk drawing on the wall is the judge, but instead of your honor, it's your tyranny.
Yeah.
And basically in Alternian law, there's no such thing as defense. There's no defense attorney, and the word defense is offensive in the courtroom.
Yeah.
And basically she, for a little while, she just kind of interrogates the plush, but most of the interrogation is in the intimidating silence.
Quote unquote, yeah.
Yeah, so she's just like, not looking, but like facing the plush directly with a very stern expression.
Yeah. She slaps this stuffed dragon around a little bit.
But not too hard.
But not too hard, because you don't want to bruise.
It's a very cute scene, basically.
It's really, like, charming.
Yeah.
She's really into law. She's, like, law books hanging around. And then, she, discovers the embezzled beetles, which I guess are currency, and convicts him. Apparently the judge's whole job is just to stand there, and the prosecutor actually, like, makes the verdict and then assigns the sentence.
And the verdict is made by flipping a coin. Mm-hmm. And one side, there's two heads on this coin, and one of them has a gash through the eyes of the head. Mm-hmm. And luckily for the plush, it doesn't land on that. But the other side is actually hanging, and the plush is hanged.
The gag is she flips the coin and it comes up with the ungashed head, and so it's like, oh, he's safe, and then she, like, grabs him, and she's like, coin? What coin?
Right.
I don't see a coin. The prosecution doesn't see a coin. Oh, did you forget? She's blind, and then she, like, puts a noose around him and chucks him out the window.
Right.
Along with, and then it zooms out, and you see the, like, dozens of hanged plushies dangling from her house.
Yeah. It's kind of charming and
cute.
It's charming in a creepy way, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that happens in this sequence that I want to draw attention to is that there's a mystery link. So at the bottom of each panel of Homestuck, we get a link to the next page with an action text. Mm-hmm. This is, as far as I can tell, the first time that we get 2 links. Mm-hmm. And one of them is a sequence of question marks. And hovering over that link, I see that it actually links to a page 6,000 pages in advance.
Yeah.
So I didn't click it.
You could have clicked it. Nothing bad would have happened.
Right, I could have, but I feel like that's like a retcon, like that you can't click that if you're reading along, as it's updating. So I'm trying to, I guess, preserve that experience as much as possible.
That's fair. It is, in fact, a retcon. I suppose that's the case. Like, you're having sort of a fundamentally different reading experience than I think a lot of people did, because there's a couple different things that have been retconned in.
Right, like the arms.
The arms.
Which you haven't seen any in a while. I'm wondering.
We haven't seen any in a while now. All that happens if you click on those question marks is you're presented with the we are presented with the Libra symbol in, like, Terezi's color, okay. And it just says password in, like, her typing quirk, and you have to enter a password. And if you enter the password, then you get to, some stuff happens, and then if you don't, then it just goes, like, go back and read the story. Like, you clearly didn't get here yet. That's
interesting. That's kind of like a game mechanic, like an old text adventure game.
Yeah, it becomes it's like sort of choose your own adventure, later on, but we won't get there for a long, long time, so it's okay.
That is very interesting. Terezi alludes to mother grub-fearing citizens, which is a play on, like, God-fearing citizens.
Right.
And then later in this reading, we find out pretty explicitly that trolls actually are laid in broods by a mother grub underground.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that later, because actually troll reproduction gets kind of explained in this reading, which is cool. Mm-hmm. But for the time being, it was interesting to see that specific allusion to a bug-based religion.
Mm-hmm. Then we get her just puttering around her room a little bit to learn a little bit more about her, and one thing that she does is assign her walking cane, which looks exactly like the canes that you see actual, like, visually impaired people, like, on Earth, real human beings using to, move around the world, and but it's just she uses it to fight with.
Right. So yeah, I kind of, like, noted that, like, I hope she actually uses it like a real person would to navigate the world, and that all of her experience of the world isn't kind of magical blindness. But by your exasperated sigh right there, I guess not.
She really doesn't. Occasionally, like, it does, I don't know. I don't really remember how it's handled well enough to comment, but I don't believe that you ever see her, like, using it to just walk around. You pretty much, like, just see her.
Right.
To be fair, you mostly see her in environments where she's pretty familiar with where everything is, so, like, it's a place where she would have lived for a long time.
That makes sense. Yeah, we don't have to dwell on that. We've talked about it before.
But then you cut it.
Did I?
Or did you not cut it?
I don't think I cut that part.
I don't actually listen to the podcast. I listen to the cold open, and that's it, because that's a surprise to me, but...
I don't think that I cut the part where we talk about magical blindness.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, yeah. Just, plug in frustration with magical blindness anytime we see Terezi, pretty much.
We do get a little flash forward to her on her world in the medium. And she has this kind of like segmented nunchuck-like cane with a harpoon head, and she's beaten up some monster prototype imps with it, and it's pretty cool.
She's pretty badass. She's super good at fighting. I like Terezi.
Nice. And her world looks pretty cool. Like, her treehouse is there, and it's being built up. And she's got, like, this puke green field with, like, brown rivers and a purple sky. It doesn't sound pleasant, but it's an interesting visual.
Yeah, a lot of the color combos of the trolls, like, lands in the medium are, like, weird and gross.
Yeah, well, I guess that we don't spend as much time on each of those as we do on the humans, so that they can be more experimental, I guess. Mm-hmm.
They're a lot less cohesive.
Mm-hmm. One of them has to do with tea, right?
Yeah.
Is that Terezi's? Is that, like, rivers of tea?
No.
Okay.
No, when it's the one that has to do with tea, it will be glaringly obvious, like bashing you over the head.
Nice.
So.
Nice. Yeah, I'm excited to see all these. But before we do that, we have to meet some more trolls. Mm-hmm. And we meet one now who is Arsenic Catnip. And she's interesting. She's an interesting character. So she talks to Terezi entirely through role-playing. These two have a friendship where Terezi is a dragon-type thing, and AC is a cat.
Of some kind, with multiple mouths.
Yes, with 2 mouths. And so, to talk to each other, they have to do action text, like with asterisks around their actions. And all of AC's dialogue begins with like a colon and 2 3s. So like a cat face with 2 mouths.
Do you get it?
It's a cat with 2 mouths.
Yeah. There you go.
And thankfully, most of her text is really like normal. Like all lowercase. The only thing that I picked up on was that she replaces double E's with double 3s. And she replaces words that sound like cat words. Like pause is with like a PAW, and perfect is with PURR, which is fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's silly. And then her cat character lives in a cave and like eats wild animals. And then later in the reading, we get like a single panel of her, and she's actually got like a 3 mouth, like a cat face.
Yeah.
And she lives in a cave with like chalk drawings that she licks on the walls. But we don't, and like,
she doesn't lick her chalk drawings. Those are other smears.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we see like some discarded bones. So she seems to be role-playing only in that she's a cat. Everything else about that roleplay is her real life.
Yeah, I mean, Terezi actually points out in that same conversation that she literally kills, like, wild animals with her bare hands, like, to eat. So, like,
right.
she's like, adorable, but she also, like, literally is, like, a hunter and can take care of herself.
Like a literal, like, wild child.
Yeah!
And it's cool that those two are friends, like the treehouse and the cave girl.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that there's so many of these that there can be, like, multiples of that trope. Because there's 12.
What, like interesting oddball friends?
Who live in the wild. And roleplay as animals. Like
there's 2 of them that live... Well, Terezi, like, is just kind of doing it to humor her. She doesn't do this with everyone.
Right, but, like, yeah. But, like, both of them, like, have a lot in common.
Right.
In terms of their living situation, I guess.
Well, they all have weird living situations. Like, every single one has, like, a weird...
Right.
Setup of some kind, pretty much.
Yeah, because living on Alternia is weird, actually.
Which we will, again, talk about more in a little bit.
But basically, Terezi invites AC to the game.
Right, and she accepts, but she says she needs to go get permission first. And
Permission.
I don't want to say very much on this because I know exactly what this is about. I want to hear Alex's impressions of this.
Okay, so yeah, Terezi says, "Oh, you don't need that guy's permission." And AC is like, "Oh, but I want it. Like, I want to run it by him. I'll just bring it up casually." And we don't know who this guy is.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't seem to me like he's one of the custodians.
Okay.
But I don't really know.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that one unfolds. I can't say anything because I don't want to color. I'm really interested in your interpretation of that dynamic, and so...
well, it kind of read to me like Terezi was critical of AC's relationship with this person, and was kind of subtly trying to dissuade her from needing that person's validation. Which kind of uncomfortably real about toxic relationships.
Yeah, that was the instinctive emotional reaction that I had to it. It's I have seen this play out. This is sad and uncomfortable to see. And I can't comment further on it, but we'll see how it goes.
Sure. The other thing I just want to note about these two is that, their entire interaction is, really sweet and friendly and, not performatively antagonistic at all. Mm-hmm. Which is refreshing. These two are cute together.
Yeah, they really are.
Which is interesting because, Terezi... I guess Terezi, can go either way. She can be absolutely eviscerating to someone who's being antagonistic to her. Mm-hmm. And then she can be really sweet with someone who's sweet with her.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I think there's a number of trolls who, well, not a number. I can think of at least one other who can go both ways in that way. But I think Terezi's definitely the best example. I don't think they quite fall in a continuum or anything like that. But she is Libra, so, I'm imagining Alex's face right now.
What does that mean?
Well, it's the scales, balance. That's what I'm saying, I know nothing about conventional astrology, but if you just literally, semantically interpret their signs. Right.
So, yeah, actually, I forgot to mention that when we were talking about Terezi's introduction. Mm-hmm. That she's, well, not only is she, interested in the justice system, mm-hmm. she's just, interested in delivering justice, mm-hmm. And, severely persecuting people that she sees as unjust. And I think it said it in creative and cruel ways.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because that's how she treats John.
What do you mean, creative and cruel?
Befriending him to kill him.
Yeah, it kind of needed to happen, though, right? Because otherwise they wouldn't have had the offshoot timeline that allowed them to gain the knowledge that they needed to move through the game. Dave got a ton of loot.
Did she do that intentionally? Did she know that was going to happen? I don't think so.
I think she did. What was the deal? She had a mixed, I don't know exactly why she did it. I think she was starting to have a mixed picture because she knows some things, but
okay.
I'm not really sure. There's too much going on in this comic, you're even, your podcast hosts, don't have a damn clue. I'm sorry.
Right. Also, one last thing about her is, it seems like the way that she tastes color on her computer monitor mm-hmm. is she licks it.
Yeah.
And when it's covered in her saliva, I guess, the pixels, the color of the screen, interacts with her saliva in a way that broadcasts that information to her brain.
Yeah.
She's remotely tasting it if it's touching her saliva.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Oh, no, I mean, she's literally licking the screen. You're just not seeing it on panel. That's not how that works. She's not remotely licking it. Sorry, I misunderstood what you meant. She just licks the screen.
To refresh the screen for her, she has to lick it again.
Pretty much, yeah. Or I think she also smells it. It's sort of inconsistent. Sometimes she smells it, sometimes she tastes it.
Okay.
Depending on we don't really ever find out why or what the difference is. Smell and taste are also kind of the same, so...
Right, I guess I'm looking for a consistency that isn't there.
It's okay. Yeah, don't worry about it. That particular mechanic is not very well developed.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
What do we do now? We find out that Terezi doesn't have a lucis. Is that how it's said?
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't have a lucis yet. But she... oh no, sorry, I skipped ahead. After talking to Arsenic Catnip, Terezi recruits Gamzee.
Mm-hmm.
And we've already seen that. She asks Gamzee to play her Gamezee.
Yes, we've seen that conversation already. Hey, Gamzee, you want to play Gameses with me?
Yeah.
Then she has a conversation with Karkat, and it's really, like, Karkat is like, guess what? Like, I'm the leader now, and you can't do anything about it. And she's just like, whatever.
Yeah, she's like, okay.
Yeah. And then makes her, like, his second in command, and she's like, alright, but she still is the one who knows what's going on, and so, like, she's his server player and everything.
Right, and she says, okay, you're the leader, that means you go on first.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, well, I want to, control someone's house. And she's like, oh no, you can only do that last.
Yeah.
Because you're the first one to go in. So she kind of, like, not tricks him, but, like, doesn't tell him more than he needs to know.
Right.
So he thinks he's the leader, but he's not. He doesn't even know what's going on. And she says, like, don't be such a baby. And he's like, what's a baby?
Right.
And so it turns out that she knows the word baby from her Lucis's dream. And a Lucis is basically the custodian of the trolls. And we'll get back into that later. Mm-hmm. But that's the thing that all the trolls have, is a Lucis. Mm-hmm. Except... Wait, Terezi doesn't have one, though.
Terezi will have one.
And she knows its dream from the future.
Yes, it communicates her with her somehow such that she knows what it's dreaming about.
Okay.
She says, in particular, that if she had a Lucis, it would mean the world was about to end.
Right.
So, it will exist at some point. It just doesn't yet. It's weird.
Yeah, and then we flash forward to when Karkat's in the medium,
mm-hmm.
in the land of Pulse and Haze,
mm-hmm.
which is, like, a completely black landscape with no detail, and then red liquid of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like just it's two-tone, like black and red.
Yeah, it's very dramatic looking.
Mm-hmm.
And except for Karkat's house, which Terezi has like scrawled graffiti all over in primary colors. She like drew a picture of Karkat and wrote like "Durr."
Yeah, and she's also like built the house out in just like meandering ways, like staircases
mm-hmm.
that go out to the sides for no reason. And he's like, "You're wasting all my grist," and she's like, "Well, that's okay. Like you want to fight more imps, don't you?"
Yeah.
It's adorable how much you want to like just beat stuff up. And he's like, more like Adora bloodthirsty.
Yeah.
It's just like so weak.
He's so adorable.
Yeah.
Oh, he has. I just like the name of the weapon that he's made in the.
Mm-hmm.
So remember that he likes
the Thresh Prince of Bel Air.
The Thresh Prince of Bel Air, and so the scythe that he made is called Home Smell You Later.
Mm-hmm. And it's like one of its edges is like magenta, and one is like lime green in a very 90s way.
Yeah. In
like Will Smith's shirt way.
Yeah, it's very good. Then there's a short conversation about there's another toilet gag, like, you have misplaced my toilet.
Mm-hmm.
Which Karkat calls a load gaper.
Mm-hmm.
And then we cut away to, I just almost sent her name, someone else floating above.
And when Terezi calls it a toilet, he derides her as blue. He derides that as blue-blooded vernacular, mm-hmm. And then she's like, "Oh, what's your blood color?" And he's like, wow, I can't believe you just asked that. Like, that's really rude.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting.
I can't say anything about that at all.
Well, I mean, like,
we'll learn more about that later.
Right, like, there's different, like, blood colors, and those, like, have different... They're, like, different castes or something in a society. And it's just maybe rude to ask what your... Well, it is rude to ask what blood color you are. Because there's animosity or something between blood colors.
Well, it's more like, if anything, like, that's sort of a... That would be a very, like, very, very modern, like, distinction for them to be making, is the fact that, like, Karkat doesn't want to reveal his, because most people, like, type in it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, and he's gray.
Yeah. He's just concealing it.
I didn't realize that.
It's not meant to be immediately obvious, but since you
Okay.
seem to be picking up on it, I'm just gonna, like, engage in that conversation a little bit. I guess it's a spoiler, but, like...
That's fine.
The information is there, yeah. Like, if you notice, their text color is the same color as their t-shirt, and in some cases the same color as their, as, like, the girls will wear makeup that is that color as well.
And also, like, the sails on their hives. Like,
Yeah.
the tent things. Okay, that's it. So there's, like, red, green, yellow, and blue blood.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any others? Or is it 4?
No, there's... I
Are there
don't
12?
want to get into this now. We're going to get into it later.
I mean,
in, like,
I don't
an
need to know the
involved
reason. I just, like, I'm
discussion.
curious.
Yeah, there's a whole spectrum.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, cool. So then we cut to somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
There's a frog temple, like the one on Earth, but it's underground.
Is it underground?
Well, there's stalactites.
Oh, I didn't even notice those.
Yeah. And there's someone here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to describe this person?
Oh, yeah. So, she is floating above these ruins, like, floating, like she can fly. She's wearing a tattered, like, long skirt and a t-shirt with the Aries symbol on it in, like, dark brick red. And she has blank white eyes, so, like, no pupils or anything, and, like, the whites of her eyes are actually white, whereas, like, a normal troll's would be, like, a yellowish orange.
Right.
And, she's, like, messing around in there. She telekinetically rips the frog head off the ruins and just throws it into the mud.
Right. And, the kind of the narrative text says that she justifies this recklessness, with the knowledge that everything happens for a reason. Which is kind of an interesting take on the, paradoxical and cyclical nature of events in the Homestuck universe.
Mm-hmm.
Where if someone's, like, cognizant of that, they might kind of do the fuck destiny thing, where they just, like, if events are predetermined, there's your dog.
There's my dog. Okay. You can mute my audio from this part if you need to. She's yelling about the delivery guy. I bet you this is a UPS truck. And that's why I'm about to see it drive around the other side of my driveway.
Nice.
Oh no, it's somebody that just came home. Anyway.
Anyway, yeah, like, if you know that events are predetermined, you might, like, rebel by, doing whatever you want destructively because it doesn't matter, right?
Right.
And she looks pretty angry in general.
She has a very, like, dead expression on her face. Like, very, very flat and, like, empty looking, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I take it back from, like, when you say, oh, she looks angry, because she's about to have a conversation with Solix. And, who we haven't met yet. Yeah. Oh, we're about to meet him. It's Twin Armageddon, so we've seen him already.
I'm gonna cut that.
What? Okay.
His name?
She's about to have a conversation with someone and, expressly say that she doesn't remember being angry, so.
Right. Okay. You're right.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's up to something.
She's up to something. She doesn't even seem to really know what she's up to yet, but she seems to be confident that the thing up to which she is right now, if I'm doing
Sure.
that correctly, like, will certainly be something at some point. Then there's a teaser. We're gonna get a bunch of these. Like, there's a character teaser.
Yeah, so we see some pants and a hand.
Yep.
And they they stoop down to pick up a Faygo bottle, which is the drink that Gamzee drinks. And
flung into the ocean recently.
Right, and he says, this is like filthy trash from land dwellers. Mm-hmm. So this is a sea dweller that Gamzee was afraid of.
Right.
And they... I'm
glad you inferred that on your own.
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah. And they have like a very kind of pinstriped look to them, and like a bunch of rings on their hand, on their fingers, and I think like the big ring is the Pisces symbol.
Yep.
Like the two.
It's Aquarius.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the water ones.
Yeah.
With like two zigzag lines on it, so that's who that person is.
Yeah.
Oh.
What?
Oh, because like Gamzee is like another water sign, and he like lives on the water. He's like an amphibious sign. Mm-hmm. Okay, all right.
Right, and we'll see his Lucis later on, which
right, yeah,
sort of has to do with that too.
So
then there's sort of a case in point in like what Homestuck's like handling of narrative time flow has become. There's a sort of like a transitional shot, and like the text of the page is, we return to the land of pulse and haze, so that's Karkat's planet, so that we can rewind a bit. Before all that paint got slopped on your hive, this is in second person addressing Karkat, before all that paint got slopped on your hive, and before that mysterious hole was made. Man, how'd that hole get made? It was when Karkat ran TA's cursed Tilda Ath program and his computer blew up. That's what happened. We'll see this happen later. It will be startling and unexpected.
Right. So...
But before that happens, before we find all that out, we are in the quote-unquote current, like, narratively present time.
Right. We're back actually where this reading started, which was Karkat going downstairs to confront his custodian, who is a giant crab monster.
Yeah. The fandom calls him Crab Dad.
Nice. So this is a custodian, or Lucis Naturae. And we basically get a rundown here of how the whole troll system works.
The troll system. Tell us about the troll system.
Okay, so adult trolls have genetic material that they supply and ship off to the mother grub. And the mother grub kind of just sloshes all of that together, like an entire generation's worth. And yeah, and I think it's described as like, like a huge incestuous pile.
Incestuous slurry.
Yeah. Ugh.
Right.
And then she like lays an entire brood, and everyone in that brood has like, they can't trace their lineage because everyone's parents are all mixed up in there. So there's no way to know who your biological parents are.
Right.
And I don't even know if the biological parents are two people, a male and a female, or not.
Nope.
I
can expressly disconfirm that. It's literally just, it's never made clear how many actual, like, pairs of, like, genetic, how do you even know they have chromosomes or whatever, but, like,
right.
Yeah, there's no notion of, like, any, some subset of two people's genes come together or whatever. Like, sure. I think it's literally just, like, you can think of it as, like, free DNA.
Right, and I guess all we can confirm about that is that they have the same DNA as we do, like, the same basis, the CGAT structure.
No, that's just coincidental. The fact that their handles correspond to base pairs has everything to do with the fact that they will later interact with a universe where there are humans who have those base pairs, and nothing to do with troll genetics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That is not what I would have thought. And in fact, was not what I thought.
Okay. Maybe I should have let you maintain that theory, but...
Maybe.
Well.
Oh well.
Cat's out of the bag now.
So basically, once these troll eggs hatch, they pupate on a stalactite underground.
Ew, it sounds so much grosser when you say it out loud.
Well, they attach to a stalactite, and then they pupate and emerge
with limbs.
With new limbs. And they face some trials that we haven't been told about yet. Mm-hmm. And if they survive those, they are chosen by a monster. And that is the Lucis. And in this reading, we see that the Luci are those are basically zodiac themed.
Pretty much, yeah.
So whether the troll has a zodiac theme before reading the Lucis, or the Lucis bestows the zodiac theme on them, I don't know yet. But they get like a monster, a custodian of their zodiac sign. Right.
I think it's really funny that they're kind of like Pokemon, where like they're all one species that comes in like, you're gonna see the degree of variation that there is sure. Preposterous.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then, as we learned before, when they get to the surface, they design and construct their own hive as like a child. And there are construction drones on the surface that help with this, but otherwise leave the children to fend for themselves. And then, when they are adults, they go, the vast majority of them go off into space to fight space wars. So this entire home planet of the trolls basically is kids and the monsters that they coexist with.
Yep.
So, and they don't even the monsters don't really care for them so much as they present them with a challenge to wrangle the monsters.
Pretty much, yeah. A lot of the Luci present different kinds of challenges to the kids. I think in the comic it says they function as sort of zookeepers, but they do have a purpose because they can when they're small, especially because they have to learn how to defend themselves and everything. They basically just physically protect them from dangers.
Yeah, and it's an interesting parallel to the striping with the parents for the human kids, because that was kind of a motif that didn't really make sense for human society, that you would literally have to fight your parent. Yeah. But for trolls, it's a literal biological thing that you have to
physically subdue,
combat your guardian. Yeah.
Yeah. Which in a lot of cases proves to be it's a lot more my dog is being really uppity right now. So Carcat gives essentially his dad some chilled roe cubes. Roe being caviar, but the cheap version, right? Mm-hmm. It's fish eggs. So he's just shut up, here's some fish eggs, leave me alone.
Yeah, yeah.
Dad. But they they do love them. We see later on, a picture that a crudely drawn picture that Carcat must have done of Crab Dad.
Right. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's really interesting. The whole. I mean, you prepared me for Troll Society being very different. But there was no way that I could predict the ways in which it is, and it's all really fascinating.
Nice.
It's really cool. It's cool world. It's cool. Yeah, it's cool world building on Hussey's part. I gotta congratulate him.
Yeah, I agree. That one, Troll. I guess I'm just so used to hearing about it that it seems sort of fascinating to me now. But the way that their society is organized is definitely pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So.
And we also, I guess, something that I was confused about was how, trolls have had film for thousands of years, but didn't seem to be spacefaring. But they are. It's just that they leave the kids behind on this planet.
Yeah, which doesn't frankly seem like a bad idea at all. That seems like a good solution to the problem of can babies develop healthy in space? Don't worry about it.
I wouldn't say it's a good solution, but
Well, it's not perfect. It'd be nice if they cared for them at all, but, like, seriously, like...
They also, like...
breeding all your young on the homeworld, like, and then also you only have one homeworld to protect.
Right, they also, like, leave the young, like, to die in trials the moment they're born. But, you know, they're I mean, they are, like, clearly, breeding super soldiers.
Like, yeah. Like, I don't agree with any of that whole, like, oh, like, make them survive trials and stuff. I literally just mean, like, the whole keep like, all of the children on your homeworld.
Okay.
And then just, like, protect your homeworld. But yeah, like, it's just breeding them to be super soldiers. And, like, be incredibly ruthless and violent. And, like...
Right.
I guess disregard for life is kind of built in from the beginning.
Sure. I guess my only question... Well, I mean, there's a lot of questions. But, like, something that... I wonder is, who's making all the movies and TV? Is it, like, kids, or is it, like, from Off-World?
I think the assumption is that they're from Off-World.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, yeah, because, like, there's, like, adult troll celebrities.
Yeah.
So not every single troll is, like, a soldier.
Right, they just don't live at home.
Yeah, okay.
You know. Like, there's people out doing conquering and whatever, but then, like, they also, like, occupy places, you know?
Yeah. And so then, after... Oh, yeah, so we get what was supposed to be a flash of Karkat battling Crabdad, but the narration is like, look, I didn't really have time to animate this, so here's the song that was supposed to go with it.
Yeah, except it's a really good song, so, like, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it is. It was just, like, a kind of, like, funny, cute, metatextual thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we meet Twin Armageddons.
Oh, boy. Yes, we do. He is the kid who talks in mustard, and he is the, he's the tech guy. He's got the one red eye, one blue eye.
Yeah, so not only are his, glasses red and blue, his eyes are literally, like solid red and solid blue.
Yep. And, oh boy, his name's Solix Captor.
Mm-hmm. Which I've heard the name Solix before, and I guess, like, from Homestuck, but it doesn't sound
hang on
like...
a second, I think he's a mythological figure. Hang on, I'm gonna be typing.
But I mean, like, in the context of people talking about Homestuck, I guess. I just wasn't listening.
Oh, okay, so, Castor and Pollux.
Oh, okay.
Get it? Solix Captor.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Wait, who are they again?
Hang on. Oh, so they were, like, the Gemini.
Oh.
They, like, the twins who, like, became, like, the constellation, like, Gemini.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. Because
nice.
one of them died and the other one wanted to, like, live with him. Like, they wanted to be immortal forever, and so they became a constellation.
I don't know that one. I don't know that myth. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It was one of the ones that I skipped, I guess.
It's a minor myth.
Yeah. But that's cool.
Anyway, so this is Solix. He does computer hacking.
He does.
You tell us your impression of his intro.
Well. So his immediate page where we're supposed to learn his name, is incredibly rambling. Mm-hmm. Like, the narration is full of question marks and short sentences and stuff like this and, you know, that, and it comes off as very, like, insecure. Mm-hmm. Which is intentional. Right.
But, like, it's later played off, so he sort of vacillates between, like, grandeur and, like, self-deprecation a lot. He's not really sure whether he's, like, the shit or if everybody hates him.
Right.
He knows that he's, like, pretty good at things, and that's the main stuff. And then we kind of zoom out some more and check out... Oh, we find out that he spends time moping and nursing migraines. And then we zoom out some more to see his room. Let's talk about him, and then we'll talk about the... Well, okay, so in the middle, in between seeing him and actually getting his name, is a little it's supposed to be a teaser of arsenic catnip, who is the Leo troll. Like, her sign is Leo, but like it's Alex already inferred that like
she's a cat.
That's who that is. It's just an unexplained panel, but like she's the cat one.
Yeah,
lives in a cave, has cat themed things. Anyway, so more about Solix is that he keeps bees in his home.
Yeah, so the bees are computer bees. His computer is a beehive, which is really interesting. I'll just quickly. It's the beehive is made out of silicone.
Yeah.
And the bees communicate in binary.
Yeah, like bees will pair up and dance, and that's how they signal. It's really cute.
Yeah, it is. But there's some more stuff about this introduction that I think you want to talk about.
Yeah, I have a big ol'... Alex's entire commentary is ... and then, :/ emoticon, and I have a lot to say. Ready?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Solix's, deal first, and then I'll talk about, the thing that I take issue with. His deal is he keeps these bees, and they run his computer, and they also generate something called mind honey, which he's not supposed to eat. It's used to placate his lusus.
Right.
The other thing is that they kind of harp on the way in which he's, volatile, and his self-worth kind of vacillates, moment to moment, and he's not really sure how he feels about himself. So, here's the thing, is, it's explicitly said, he suffers from debilitating bipolar mood swings, which, that's not...
It's not how it works.
That's not... No, all you have to do is Google it to know that that's not how bipolar disorder works.
Yeah, it's just, plain inaccurate and ignorant.
Yeah, do any of your research. It's nice that it has an appropriate prefix to your little, bifurcation motif that you're doing with this guy, but, don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, bipolar disorder, first of all, it's actually can be debilitating for people, and also, the other thing is that, okay, so he's got a cheesy, bifurcation motif, but then also, he's presented as, kind of insufferably, conflicted about himself all the time, and he's also, psychic, and, hears the voices of, the dying.
Right.
I think the exact text used is, your mutant mind is hounded by the psychic screams of the imminently deceased, which is just, it's the worst. It's, your visions foretell of the planet's looming annihilation, and yet, unlike the typical sightless prophet of doom, you are gifted with vision twofold. And, can we...
that's cool and all, but you can't, pair that up with a real-world mental disorder that has nothing to do with that. Exactly.
I find it really frustrating that he felt the need to perpetuate that trope of I have visions and it makes me crazy in
exactly.
I have this real world mental illness and that makes me crazy and I get visions and thanks for piling onto the stigma.
Yeah.
That said, I do think that the actual way in which Solix's characterization is handled, if you forget that they're trying to call it, this completely inaccurate, DSM label, if you remember that he's a 13-year-old kid with a big vocabulary, I actually buy it.
Nice.
I don't know, what was your read on that?
What do you mean exactly?
He's very, he can go from very grandiose to, very matter-of-fact. Sometimes, he can be grandiose about, how, he is, constantly suffering, and,
right.
Everyone hates him, and then the next minute just, be totally, down to earth, and, have a serious conversation, and, is very sensitive to people calling him out about how much his temperament, like, vacillates. And I feel like that reminded me really hard of, like, conversations about, like, my own mental health that I had at that age. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he is it's a very natural character.
Mm-hmm.
It's really believable and sympathetic.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really come across as, like, a big old stereotype of anything. Because it's not actually a stereotype of anything, it's just named after something.
Right. Which is sort of a good thing. It's good that got dropped, but I did kind of take issue with the way that was introduced.
For sure. But I do think, like, he's a good character. I like him.
Yeah. I like him too. I like him. So, okay, to go through, since we've sort of picked up on the fact that some major themes are the Zodiac and having characters revealed to us, like, not all at once. So far we have, the signs that we've seen are Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Libra, Capricorn, and Aquarius.
Okay.
And the ones that we still need to see are Virgo, Scorpio, Sagittarius, and Pisces. If you're following along at home. Not all of those characters have been named yet, but we've, like, at least seen them or seen their chat handle.
Right. So we have 4 names so far. We have Solix, Karkat, Teresi, and Gamzee.
Mm-hmm. And then we're going to meet more next week. So then, meanwhile, we learned some more about Solix, including that he is psionic, which I learned is, like, made up.
Yeah, it's the sci-fi version of psychic.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, it's an established, like, sci-fi word, which just means magic.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, psychic magic, whatever.
Yeah, like, highly advanced humans, like, have incredibly, like, powerful minds that, like, blah, 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 blah. No, it's psychic powers, it's magic.
Yeah.
But basically that means, like, he doesn't need a strife specialist, because he just uses his mind to fight. Yeah.
He also, he goes to sit down at his computer, and we get a look at, so if you remember how Karkat had Game Grub magazine.
Yeah. So
they're literally grubs. The games are grubs. Like,
the product that a game is, like, a CD, is a big colorful grub.
It's like a maggot the size of your forearm.
That you plug into your computer.
Ah!
They're really, like, it's really going whole hog with the, like, biological technology thing.
Man, like,
In a very, like, insectoid and gross way.
Yeah. So I try really hard to be, like, pro-bug, and I, like, don't think you should kill bugs.
Oh,
like,
no.
whatever, but, like, they actually do kind of squick me out. Like, especially, like, lots of bugs. Yeah. I like bees and, like, like, bugs that people, like, conventionally would like, I'm, like, fine with. But, like, I get kind of squicked out by beetles, and I really don't do maggots. Or, like, grubs. I really super...
That's totally understandable.
They're like, they're, like, the size of your shoe. They're, like, lying on his floor. Ah!
I mean, I guess, like, I didn't really think of them in a concrete way. I thought of just them as, like, an abstracted, like, little cartoon. But I definitely understand that reaction.
And you plug them into your computer. Well, and it was just like, if you accidentally step on one, you can grow it back.
Or just pirate it, yeah.
Anyway, so he logs onto his computer and starts talking to Teresi about how she should take leadership of the Red Team.
Right. There's another Arsler, which really sucks.
Yeah.
Like, it's getting old.
Yeah. Stop.
Yeah, but basically, he tells her that the universe is going to make him go blind before he dies. Mm-hmm. Because, like, prophets or whatever are supposed to be blind.
Yeah.
And he's gonna end up blind before the universe ends or something.
Right.
And also, he mentions angels, and she's like, what's an angel? And he's like, they're terrifying demons with feathered wings. And she's like, holy shit. which is really funny. Like the feathered wings scared her the most.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I guess feathers are a very alien concept to trolls.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, he says that Paradox Space uses angels to usher in the end of things.
Yeah.
Which is, like, very ominous. Mostly what I noticed was that this combination, this pair of trolls,
mm-hmm.
between their typing quirks, was some of the hardest to read. Like, I can do either one.
There's a lot of numbers floating around.
I can do, like, either one on their own, fine. But together, these two were, like, nigh illegible.
Yeah. It doesn't hurt that, like, the colors really clash badly. Like, there's just no contrast between them.
Right.
It's bad. To actually break down... Okay, so one thing that I really liked is, Terezi calls Solix's typing color ugly mustard, or, like, disgusting, icky mustard or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he calls her typing color, which is, like, teal, summer shithead mist. That was very clever. Apparently, Terezi kind of calls him out for having this, like, sort of complex about people being after him or people not agreeing with him. And he just, like, demands that she change the subject. Like, he's not into, like, talking about that. He's tired of being called out about it. We also find out that Apocalypse Arisen and Terezi had been close friends, but that now talking to her makes Terezi sad. And Apocalypse Arisen is treated as an authority on the same kinds of predictions about the game, like making him go blind and die.
Right. So I was introduced to her last time when Solix said that she found the game in some ruins.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I know about her so far. But yeah, it seems like she's had a change recently. Something's happened to her.
Yeah. And then we actually cut back to her, and she is now kicking the frog's body off of the pedestal.
Right, so it actually wasn't explicitly said that this floating psychic girl is AA, but I figured that out. It was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
And also Ares, AA, I guess.
Oh,
Although I didn't get that at all, because, like, the Ares symbol is like a curly V,
mm-hmm.
and I thought that was like a ram's head.
Okay.
So, is there, like, a ram? Well, that would be Capricorn, wouldn't it? So I don't know this stuff, guys.
Well, hang on a second. Wait, let's look this up. Okay. Aries. It definitely is meant to be associated with the ram.
Well, then why is Capricorn?
Let's find out. I think Capricorn is a... No, it's also
Capricorn's a goat, but, like, those are such similar things.
Yeah. Wait, okay. Capricorn animal. Capricorn animal. It's a goat.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew that.
I just really like that I Googled it, and Google comes up with, how they do the helpful, like, scraped boxes now.
Yeah.
And it just goes, goat.
Nice. Man, Google has gotten a lot smarter for me recently. Like, it started, like, if I Google a bunch of things, like, in succession,
mm-hmm.
it will take the context of the first thing I Googled into what it suggests for the next thing.
Whoa.
Which is really helpful. And, like, I feel like it's always been doing that. It just, like, is being more upfront and helpful about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and, like, those little boxes that come up at the top. With,
those
like,
are super nice.
This pertinent information. I love those.
Yeah.
I, for one, welcome our metadata overlords.
What is that from?
It's from The Simpsons.
Okay.
From, like, a Treehouse of Horror, like the non-canon, like, horror stories.
Okay.
One of them, I think, like, bugs take over the world. Or maybe it's, like, the green aliens that are
I,
in
for
all
one, welcome our insect overlords.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
And it's, like, it's Brock, Kent Brockman on the news, like, announcing that on air. Like, I, for one, welcome our new insect overlords.
Nice.
And it's a good quote.
I feel like that's up there. Like, that occupies a very similar place in my consciousness of, like, I will face God and walk backwards into hell.
That's so funny. Oh my god.
Yeah, they just both, like, kind of appeared there, and I only later found out, like, where I heard them.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So anyway, so Solix and Apocalypse Arisen are gonna have a conversation.
Yeah, so her typing quirk is only replacing O's with zeros, which is so nice.
It's so readable.
Yeah. Which
is good, because Solix's really still isn't, even though they do have good contrast here. They have an argument, because Solix is talking about how crappy he feels talking to her. Like, he doesn't feel good talking to her, and she's just like, I mean, I'd appreciate it. Like, I want you to feel happy. It's not like I don't want that for you or anything. And but she's just so, like, affectively blank.
Yeah, it seems like she's lost the ability to emote.
Yeah. She kind of reads, like, the ham-fisted, almost like caricatures of depression that you see in media lately.
Sure. What do you mean exactly?
Like how it's like, oh, like, I have no feelings and nothing matters.
Oh, right.
Like not necessarily in, like, a goth way.
Like writers have clued into the fact that depression doesn't just mean you're sad all the time. And
yeah.
So they heard, like, oh, it means you don't have any emotions. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't really mean that.
Yeah.
But they think it means that, so they just, like, emotionless characters as depression, which is, like, a step in the right direction, but still not quite on the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think... It doesn't sound like she's depressed. It sounds like she's, like, possessed, basically.
Right, exactly. Like, the characterization uses the same sort of, like, strokes, but it's definitely not trying to say that. It's definitely trying to make her sound, like, possessed, like something weird and paranormal is happening.
Which is kind of obvious from the fact that she's floating around and has glowing eyes and is slashing buildings with her mind.
Yeah.
Which is actually, like, maybe a bit cliche in, like, cartoons, but it's still, like, effective imagery.
Mm-hmm. I agree. They have a conversation about how angry Karkat is. Mm-hmm. And
she says that his anger is instrumental. Mm-hmm. It's going to sabotage his projects, which will cause the kids' failure, but that their failure is necessary for the largest, like, for the grand scheme of things.
Right. Exactly. And
she also... Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
She also admits that she's lied to Solix, and that the game won't save the world.
Right.
But that they need to fail in that project to succeed in a larger one.
Right.
Or to go on to a larger project.
Correct.
And she's also getting this information from some voices that are not the same as Solix's voices.
Correct.
And
they are plural. That's really all we know about them, and they tend to be right.
Yes. And it kind of sounds like the old gods that Rose was talking about. Mm-hmm. Remember Rose, the human girl?
I had forgotten about her, but yeah, that's right. She's blonde. She writes wizard fic.
Yeah, she's got really good black lipstick and eyeliner. Mm-hmm. Good with a pair of knitting needles. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so Rose.
So AA
AA
says a bunch of stuff.
She sure does say some stuff. She says, it's much closer to serving as the instrument of our people's demise than that of their salvation of the game. And she also says, we 12 will behave simultaneously as the pawns and the orchestrators of the great undoing. Mm-hmm. So, no big deal or anything. Solix, hearing this, flips out and is like, we're not playing this game. What do you mean we're gonna, like, destroy the world? Like, I want no part of this. Even as AA is like, it's inevitable. Like, I don't know what you're trying to stop. Like, it's gonna happen.
Right. But yeah, he refuses to accept that. And he, like, goes to the others. Like, he trolls Terezi and Karkat to tell them, like, yo, game's off, like, this isn't a good idea, we're gonna destroy the world. Mm-hmm. So he tells Terezi, and she's like, well, I already gave Karkat the leadership, so go tell him. And then Karkat doesn't believe him. He thinks that he's already, like, trying to play mind games, and, like, because they're the leaders of opposite teams, although AA told Solix that he's not the leader after all. Mm-hmm. But Karkat refuses to believe Solix, and he says, well, I've already set up the connection with Terezi. Mm-hmm. And Solix is just like, shit. Because he thinks that, like, starting the game will instigate the end of the world, although we know that it was already going to happen. Because the meteors are coming either way. But Karkat and Solix, like, they argue and they have, like, a fight, but it's much more, like, actually hurtful than anything we've seen so far. Like, they really hurt each other. And Karkat says, like, oh, how do I know you're even a good programmer? Like, you must just be lying, like, you're so insecure. And he's like, this, like, stupid code that you sent me, the red and blue code, is probably not even real. I'm just gonna run it and, like, prove you wrong. And Solix is like, please do not run that code.
Yeah. So, of course, Karkat runs it. Solix, like, immediately gets serious and is like, do not run that. Like, all drama aside, like, just don't do it. And, of course, Karkat runs it.
Does. Yeah.
What he does is he sets it to, because you have to compile code and then run it once it's compiled into binary, so he compiles it and sets it to run once it's done compiling, and then before it's done compiling, he gets up and goes AFK, and Solix is talking to this empty chat, and then the message logged at the bottom of the screen is just like, carcinogeneticist's computer has exploded.
Yeah. It's really funny.
And then Solix just says, oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that they say, like, a bunch of times they say, like, God. Like, in an expletive way. Mm-hmm. When they say, like, mother grub fearing. I mean, it's, like, it's not an important consistency, it's just interesting.
Yeah, they don't really have, this isn't really a spoiler, they don't really have religion.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
like, it's just, like, you can't have kids speaking, like, contemporary English without religious expletives, I guess.
Yeah, which is sort of bizarre in its own right.
Yeah, like that Neil Cicerega tweet where how Jesus got his name is Joseph saw he had a baby and was like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, you can't, like, the emotion that is imparted by saying, like, oh my God, or, like, Jesus Christ. Like, we have no way to translate that, really.
Yeah.
Into alien terms. Because those are so, like, basal in our like, linguistic minds. Mm-hmm. Like, I think, like, the center of your brain that processes swearing is, like, deeper and, like, different from the rest of linguistic processing.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's correct.
I thought so.
So.
Glad I have a neuroscientist to check that with.
Mm-hmm. I've read those articles. Yeah, it has to do with, like, the way that you, like, regulate pain and everything. It's, like, part of that whole circuit.
Huh.
So, anyway, Karkat is highly startled by the totally unexpected explosion, is the narration text. Yes. And we go from, like, silly to, like, okay, that was funny, like, his computer blew up, like, but his Lucis is dead. Yeah,
so what we get here is, like, an abrupt shift in, like, not only tone, but, like, structure.
Yeah.
Basically, we get a bunch of narrative that tells us about future events in a very serious way, in, like, prose.
Yeah, it's like the narrator. The narrator's, like, talking sort of to us rather than to the characters.
Right. So basically what's happened here is the virus that Karkat ran has cursed not only him, but his friend group.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, like, this kind of black and white spirograph above his head, I guess indicating his, like, cursed status.
No, that's the Colonel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay, I see.
Yeah.
But
yes, he is cursed.
Yeah.
And the curse is, I mean, it's already come to pass for him, but all of his friends, Luci, are gonna die.
Right. And all but one of them will be prototyped into the Colonels, like the dead ones.
Right.
Which gives the Black and White Kingdoms in the medium a lot of power, because their minions are getting prototyped with all these monsters.
Yeah. On the other hand, it means that they will get to actually speak to their Luci for the first time, which is sort of nice.
Right. Which, not only nice, but, like, really kind of moving.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and we see, like, basically in these next few shots, there's, like, no humor. It's, like, really sad. Mm-hmm. Like, Karkat is, like, really sad that his Lucis has died.
Yeah.
And then
this is the panel where they juxtapose. You see, you don't immediately know that his Lucis is dead. Like, you just see him, like, crushed under rubble with his eyes closed, and Karkat is looking at him with, like, horror. And then behind Karkat is the fridge with the drawing, like, hung up with a magnet. And then you find out, like, from the narration that he is in fact dead. And then in the next page...
Yeah, the next page is Gamzee with his Lucis, which has drifted up onto the shore, and which is a big Capricorn beast.
Yeah, it's a goatfish.
But it basically looks like a dragon head. Mm-hmm. And it's like the expression on both their faces are, like, so poignant and sad, and this goatfish that is, like, really beautiful and, like, dragon-like and sleek. Mm-hmm. And we just see now dead. Yeah. And it's really sad. Yeah. This shot of Gamzee and his Lucis is, like, really, like, I'm very emotional about it.
I get really emotional about it too, and it's just the expressions and the framing. Like, it's two silent panels. There's, like, a wide shot of he's got this, like, very lonely dwelling, like, on this, like, very bleak shoreline. It's, like, it's nighttime. There's this really long, like, beam of light coming out of the door of, like, this house that we've just learned how lonely these kids' lives are. Like, this Lucis is the only, like, other living being most of them interact with, and, like...
Yeah. And Gamzee just, like, kind of has his hand on the Lucis's snout. Yeah. And it's, like... It's really poignant.
Yeah, he was waiting for him to come home.
Yeah.
And he came home with a harpoon in his side. Like, it's really sad.
Yeah. And then there's, like, on this page, there's some text which I'll just quote. The game has no explicit rule that demands something dead for prototyping, but in practice, the Colonel Sprite has particular attraction to the deceased or the doomed. Across every session ever played, exceptions to this pattern are extremely rare. And I think the only exception we've seen is Dave Sprite.
Right.
Who is kind of dead, I guess, in that his timeline doesn't exist anymore. He's doomed. Yeah. But yeah, like, there's no reason that the Colonel Sprites have to be dead, or that the Luci had to die, except that it's just, like, statistically probable.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So Solix decides to delete the rest of his viruses before they can do any more harm. Mm-hmm. And in his kind of, like, virus file, he has a copy of a Tildath file that he didn't write. He just has a copy of it, and it will execute when the universe ends. And he got this file from a very remote server. I'm assuming the same one that Rose uploaded her game fact to. No. But the same kind of thing, because we see in the next panel a green phone like the purple phone that Rose's file is on. Mm-hmm. I guess that's the server,
That's
actually.
the server itself, yeah.
Okay. And then we got, like, the writing for this page?
Well, so the code itself, I want to point out, like, we need to talk about
Sure.
what's actually in the code file, because that's important.
Okay.
So it, all tildath, you have to get a little bit programming. Basically, like, all tildath programs are a loop with a termination condition. And the loop will turn, like, with an executable that'll happen on the termination of the loop. And so the loop will terminate when the universe itself ends. And what we see in the code for, because this is also foreshadowing for people who've read before, in the parentheses where you're supposed to put the code that it'll execute when the universe ends is a flashing GIF of billiard balls.
Right.
Like being superimposed over top of each other. And that's calling on a subprogram, which Solix doesn't have access to. He has no idea what it does.
Okay.
Yeah. And then on the next page where we actually see the server itself, which has the same flashing billiard ball, we find out what Solix doesn't know, which is what that subprogram actually does, which I think is what Alex was about to tell us.
Yeah, so I think I have to read this whole thing, like, it's all pertinent.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it says, when executed, the subprogram will summon an indestructible demon into the recently voided universe. This monstrous being, with the power to travel through time, is inconvenienced very little by his arrival upon the Great Undoing. He has the entire cadaver of the expired universe to pick apart at his whim, from its birth through its swelling maturity and tapering decay. In a reality he is known to have marked for predation, he will go about assembling followers through various epochs, even going as far as personally establishing the parameters for his future summoning. Solix couldn't know that the virus is essentially a formality. The demon is already here.
What was your reaction to this?
Holy shit. So there's an apocalypse demon, basically.
Yeah. And it's basically already here. Like,
yeah.
It has always existed and always will. And
right.
Love that Doom narrative.
Yeah, so my question is that in this universe or in the Paradox space?
That is in the Trolls' universe.
Okay.
Yeah. And,
Jeez.
yeah, right? Whoops.
So it's not only their planet that's in danger. It's their entire universe.
Yep. Yeah, not just their planet, not just their species or anything. Like, literally their entire universe is,
right.
marked by this,
because,
like, demon.
Yeah, because before this was shown, I was kind of wondering, like, well, if all of, like, the trolls are off-world, they could, like, theoretically, this, like, the culling or whatever it's called, isn't, like, the end of their species. I mean, it would be hard to, like, I don't know if they have another brood mother off-world.
Right.
But,
they don't.
Okay. But, like, it would be the end in the same way that humans are ended when Earth is culled.
Right.
Although I guess they would just, like, eventually die off if they didn't have any more offspring.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not even the problem. The problem is that the universe is ending, or that it's going to end at some point.
Right. And there's going to be some sort of indestructible demon.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's kind of where our stakes are at. I told you this comic got big.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, weird and dire.
Yeah. But it seems like this demon has nothing to do with Suburb or its equivalent.
It seems that way, doesn't it?
Okay, it does seem that way.
Keep reading the story.
Yeah.
I can't tell you anything.
No, yeah. I mean, I just mean, like, that's where I'm supposed to be led.
Mm-hmm. Is that it doesn't? Yeah, you have no idea right now how it's.
It's not even. Yeah, it's not even, like, relevant, like, to the. I mean, the other way around. I mean, like, that. Suburb isn't even relevant to these stakes.
Right. And Act 5 is pretty much, I mean, I know we're in Act 5 now, but we're only just beginning to scratch the surface of Act 5. Act 5 is basically Act 5, Act 1, there's like 2 parts to it. So Act 5, Act 1 is pretty much like just setting up the trolls, and then Act 5, Act 2 is actually figuring out how is it all related to the game that they're actually playing.
Cool.
So, yeah, it's fun. And that's the end of the reading for this week. It's been 90 minutes.
Yeah, but I feel like there was like almost nothing we could cut. Like that was all.
There will be some, you could cut, you'll be able to go in and cut dead air. There's a lot of dead air. So if you're like diligent about cutting that, you can get rid of a lot of it. And then also, there's a lot of time that we spend talking about like Terezi's like LARPing with herself that we could probably cut, and like just little bits of things that aren't totally germane. Yeah. Like just line by line, you know. Yeah. You could probably hack out 15 minutes of that material. Do we want to do listener questions? I don't think we have that many, right?
We actually have 4.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, we're going to have to, like, blow through these then.
Yeah. We might actually keep they're actually not that in-depth, I think.
Okay.
The first actually comes from Quiet Serval, who says, I only just realized that the Hamsteak podcast is on iTunes, and this will make listening to the podcast so much easier.
Oh, nice. Yeah, heads up, you guys. We're in the iTunes store.
Yeah.
We can make a post about that like links directly to it next time.
I guess, yeah, I forgot that we hadn't like made that explicit.
I did also want to mention, I forgot to say this, if you want to ask us a question, you can send us an ask on Tumblr where we are hamsteakpodcast.tumblr.com, or give us a mention on Twitter where we are at Hamsteak Podcast, unless you think the thing that you want to say is a spoiler, and if there's any chance that it could be a spoiler, just send it to me. I am Brickchip on Tumblr and on Twitter.
Nice.
Thanks.
Dwellington asks, what are Alex's predictions for next week, especially retroll names?
Ooh.
And my answer is I have no idea. I'm along for the ride, and I have no expectations. I know the name Vriska, and I haven't met her yet. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm going to meet her next week, but I'll find out next week. And I don't know any of the other names.
Okay.
Pastor asks, extrapolate on the trolls you've only glimpsed, which I think we kind of did in the body of the podcast. The Pisces person, mm-hmm. or Aquarius person, I mean, is ocean dweller.
Right.
And seems to, like, have an eccentric sense of style.
Yes.
AA is a troubled, possessed psychic teen.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cat person, who seems to be a wild child.
Yeah.
Who lives in a cave and eats raw animals.
Raw, and I don't think I've ever heard that phrase before.
And also likes to roleplay and be a cute cat.
Yeah.
And is friends with Terezi.
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone else.
I think that's it for now of people we've like glimpsed and had teased.
Right.
So.
We haven't seen Adios Toreador.
Well, we've seen him.
I mean, we haven't seen him on Alternia.
Right. Correct.
So I don't know when we will.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally,
we haven't seen Pisces yet. And we haven't seen a couple of other signs.
Right. We have one last question from Brian on Twitter this time, at Dromedary, who asks, do you like to lead or follow? What would the ideal size of a group for you be? I'll let you answer this.
Oh, okay. Do I like to lead or follow? I usually like to lead if, like, the group dynamic, like, accommodates that and I'm in a position for it. Like, if I'm in a position to lead, I, like, will take that position because it's 4:13 p.m., by the way. It's the Homestuck number.
Oh, well, it's 5:13 p.m. for me.
Oh, well, like, whatever. You should have said something because we definitely blew through that hour while recording this. Anyway, yeah, I, like, prefer to take that role if it is open to me and, like, it would make sense because I get very stressed out if there's a lack of direction in anything I do, and so I'll just, like, try to impose that direction if I can, and I feel like I'm competent enough to, like, do it helpfully. I prefer working in smaller groups of people, though. I think, like, no more than 5 people tops. It starts to become really difficult to coordinate.
That's a good answer.
Thanks.
Yeah, I would probably say the same thing.
You're a take charge kind of person?
If it's necessary, I guess.
Right.
If I can contribute to everyone's success by doing things.
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like in groups that I'm comfortable working in,
mm-hmm.
there doesn't need to be a leader. Like, if a group's big enough that you need a leader, that would not be the ideal size of group for me.
Fair. That's fair.
Because, like, there's some, like, sociological rule of, like, a certain number of people needs a hierarchy.
Uh-huh.
Which I don't think is, like, biologically true, but is, like, socially prevalent.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that is off the top of my head, and I think it's, like, more than 5 for sure.
Yeah, I believe you. Because, like, I don't know, what I find is that, like, you need someone to just kind of, like...
keep their eye on the ball.
Exactly, like, and it doesn't necessarily, like, in smaller groups, like, it mostly just means that, like, that's an extra activity that they do occasionally is, like, run down a checklist and stuff, but...
Yeah. You can find me online at Crunchleaf on Twitter and LeafCrunch on Tumblr.
Like I said, I'm Brickchip in both places. And that's the end, right?
Do you have any idea what we're reading next week?
Another, like, 80-ish pages.
Cool.
I'm gonna stop giving page numbers. We read about 80 pages a week. It's slowed down from 100 because these pages are denser.
Yeah, it depends on the density of the pages.
Yeah, I don't like releasing the exact page count because we keep changing it. So.
That's cool. That's cool. I'm glad you came to that conclusion on your own.
As opposed to you having to give me a stern talking to. Was that coming?
I appreciate the effort that you put into it, but, like, it's hard to keep consistent, like, because even like, once you have them prescribed, like, we might need to change it.
Right. I never know how long things are going to take, like, especially when the structure of the story shifts. Like, and even then, like, I never know exactly what is going to take longer to talk about, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the end.
That's the end, right?
That's the end. Bye.
Bye, you guys!